You've heard their names: Lily, Jack, two children who vanished without a trace. A pink blanket, a quiet street, a door left open, and a silence so loud it still echoes months later. But behind every missing child's story is a family. And behind this family, a man. Daniel Martell, stepfather, partner, witness, or perhaps something more. In the days after the children disappeared, Daniel said very little. Not to the press, not to the public. He stayed out of sight. And when he did speak, it was calculated, brief, almost distant. Some called it grief, others called it something else entirely. But before we begin, kindly subscribe to our channel if you believe in fighting for justice. We've just crossed 1,000 subscribers, all because of your support, and we need that same energy to reach 2,000, then 5,000, and then 10,000. So go ahead and drop your DNA on that subscribe button, because wherever you are, the day this vision is fulfilled, I will send my appreciation straight to you. Let's keep building this community that fights for justice together. Who is Daniel Martell? What role did he play in the life of Lily and Jack Sullivan? And what role, if any, did he play in their disappearance? Tonight we're not chasing rumors, we're unpacking behavior, history, silence, because sometimes what's not said matters more than what is. This is the story of a man who stayed in the background until the foreground collapsed. This is Daniel Martell, and this is where we begin. Daniel Martell didn't grow up in Gerlach. He wasn't born into the tight-knit circles of this small town. He came in later, quietly, without fanfare. And when he entered Malia's life, it wasn't with a bang, but with a whisper. According to neighbors, the relationship started in 2022. Malia had been a single mother for a while by then, guarded, focused, doing what she could to protect her children. Then Daniel appeared, a mechanic by trade, rugged, reserved, a man who rarely spoke unless spoken to. Those close to Malia say she softened around him, that he brought a sense of calm, or maybe just routine. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but he was there, consistently. The first time he was spotted with the kids in public was at a local grocery store. Jack trailed behind the cart. Lily clung to her mother's hand. Daniel, noticeably quiet, paid more attention to the self-checkout screen than to the children themselves. It was ordinary, unremarkable, but sometimes that's how deeper patterns begin, subtly. Within 6 months, he was living in the home. Some said he stepped up, helped with errands, ran the occasional bath, fixed a leaky pipe. Others said he kept his distance, physically present, emotionally absent. And then there were those who didn't trust him. A friend of Malia's, who later moved out of town, once said, "He always had this look like he was somewhere else, like he was listening for something we couldn't hear." Was Daniel a stabilizing presence, or just a man filling space? His arrival was quiet, his place in the family even quieter. And in hindsight, perhaps that silence should have raised more questions. In small towns, people notice. They watch how a man treats a child, not just when people are looking, but when they're not. And with Daniel Martell, the signs were conflicting. Some described him as there but never warm. He brought groceries home. He showed up at school once for a science fair, but stood near the back, arms folded, sunglasses on indoors. Jack's project was about space. He pointed to the planets with excitement. Daniel barely nodded. One teacher said she never heard him speak, and that's the thread that keeps unraveling. He was always there, yet never in it. Did Lily and Jack call him Dad? No one can say for certain. In public, they used his first name, Daniel. Not Dad, not even Dan, just Daniel. But that could mean anything, right? Families come in all forms, and not every child is quick to bond with someone new. Still, there's something to be said about presence and absence. The moments when a child reaches out for comfort and no one leans in. A neighbor recalled hearing an argument through the walls one night. Malia shouting, Daniel quiet, too quiet, then a child crying, the kind of cry that doesn't stop just because the walls are thin. But to the public, there was no visible concern, no bruises, no official complaints, just a man who showed up with the family, but never seemed to belong to it. Some of Malia's relatives admitted they didn't know what to make of him. He wasn't hostile, he wasn't warm, he was a shadow in every family photo, one cousin said. Present, but never part of the picture. And yet if you ask Daniel, he said he loved those kids, that he would have died for them. Maybe that's true, but here's the thing about shadows. They follow you everywhere, and they never speak. Money doesn't just fund a household, it reveals who's carrying the weight, and who's pretending to. From the outside, Daniel Martell looked like any other blue-collar man. Flannel shirts, calloused hands, a pickup with rust creeping up the wheel wells. He told people he worked construction. Seasonal jobs, he said. Odd shifts. But when tragedy struck, people started asking questions. Online rumors exploded. One claim said Daniel only worked 1 day a week. Another alleged he spent more time in the shed than on any job site. When confronted, Daniel snapped back in an interview clip. "That's bull's." He didn't blink, didn't stutter, but the question lingered. Was that denial or deflection? According to several unofficial sources, Malia was the one holding things together, a full-time job at the local market, sometimes a second shift cleaning offices. Friends say she always looked tired, but she showed up. And Daniel? Some weeks he was seen around town, other weeks he wasn't. No one seemed to know where he went, or if he was bringing home a paycheck. One neighbor claimed he borrowed money. Another said he offered to fix fences for cash, but never followed through. And still, the mortgage got paid. The fridge wasn't empty, so where was the money coming from? That's when speculation turned darker. People asked, was Daniel involved in something off the books? A former friend hinted he'd changed, said he was quieter now, twitchy, that he lost weight fast, had a short fuse. There was something in his eyes, the friend said, like he was fighting a war no one else could see. Maybe it was stress, maybe it was shame, or maybe he was hiding something. One thing certain, when two children vanish, the spotlight widens, and shadows around Daniel's financial life only got darker. Stability is more than a roof over your head. It's trust. And in Daniel's case, the numbers didn't add up. May 2nd, 2025. The morning began like any other, but by 7:12 a.m., it had already ended, as no one could have imagined. That's when Malia dialed 911. Her voice cracked, her words frantic. "They're gone. Lily and Jack. They're not in their beds." The responding officers arrived within minutes. The back sliding door was ajar. No signs of forced entry. No broken windows. But the children's rubber boots were still neatly lined at the door, as if they had never left willingly. What was Daniel Martell doing at that exact moment? According to police records, he was home. Asleep, he claimed. He said he hadn't heard anything unusual during the night. But neighbors have questions. One reports hearing raised voices the night before. Another said Daniel's truck wasn't parked in the driveway around midnight. Was he out, or simply parked elsewhere? In his initial police interview, Daniel's timeline was vague. He claimed he fell asleep watching TV, then corrected himself. He had gone to bed early. Later still, he said he got up in the middle of the night but didn't check on the children. The contradictions pile up like bricks in a wall. Small shifts, slight details. But in a missing persons case, those details matter. Malia said she discovered the empty beds, but Daniel was the one who had last tucked them in. Did he see something? Hear something? Or was he truly asleep while the world fell apart around him? He didn't join the initial search. Not right away. Officers noted his behavior as calm, collected, words that in context rang cold. In the hours after the disappearance, Daniel didn't make any emotional posts. He didn't plead to the public. No camera appearance. No urgency. Some said he was in shock. Others said he was hiding. One former co-worker posted, "Daniel doesn't panic, but sometimes he doesn't feel either." That morning was chaos for the town. But for Daniel, it looked like silence. And silence in this story is never empty. In the days following the disappearance, the town of Croydon held its breath. While search teams combed the forests, rivers, and alleys, the internet turned its gaze toward one man, Daniel Martell. He wasn't speaking to the press. He wasn't posting online. He wasn't pleading, crying, or breaking down in front of cameras, but he was being watched and judged. Rumors began circulating that Daniel had taken a polygraph test. He told a local blogger he passed with no issues, but the RCMP has never confirmed that claim. In fact, they refused to speak publicly about the polygraph at all. Was it inconclusive? Was it even administered? We don't know. And that silence only fed the flames. On social media, threads dissected his facial expressions in a 10-second surveillance clip. One comment read, "No panic in his eyes, just distance." Another, "He's too calm, something's off." Daniel had no digital footprint in the hours after the children vanished. No "please help find them" post, no photos of Lily or Jack, no reposts of the missing flyers circulating across Croydon. And yet, he stayed in town. He didn't run. He didn't disappear. The RCMP said he cooperated. But cooperation isn't comfort. And Daniel's lack of visible grief became its own kind of spotlight. One news outlet described him as a ghost in the middle of a storm. Always nearby. Always quiet. In a
rare audio interview, he told a podcaster, "Grief doesn't follow a script. I don't cry on camera. That doesn't mean I don't care." But by that point, the damage was done. The town wanted emotion. The internet wanted answers. And Daniel Martell gave them neither. He wasn't breaking down. He wasn't lashing out. He wasn't begging the world to look harder. To some, that looked like control. To others, guilt. When a tragedy unfolds, people expect pain. Raw, visible, loud. But Daniel Martell was none of those things. In the weeks after Lily and Jack vanished, it wasn't Malia who drew suspicion. It was Daniel's stillness. He told a local reporter, "She hasn't spoken. She hasn't slept. She's frozen in this moment. I don't know how to help her." He framed himself as the quiet supporter, the man holding the pieces together while his partner crumbled. But that explanation didn't soothe the public. It only raised another question. If Malia was paralyzed by trauma, why wasn't Daniel? He didn't cry at the vigil. He didn't post a single personal plea online. And according to one neighbor, he still went for morning runs, like nothing had changed. To some, that was a sign of strength. To others, it was a red flag. Grief is complex, but Daniel's version of it seemed calculated, measured, even distant. He once said, "Everyone grieves differently. You want me to scream in the street? I'd rather fix what's broken." But what was he fixing? And why did he seem more focused on optics than urgency? A former friend told investigators that Daniel hated chaos, that he believed emotion was weakness, that he once said, "You control the room when you control your face." So when the cameras came, Daniel showed nothing. No cracks, no heat, just a quiet man in a clean shirt, standing beside a broken mother. Was that strength or suppression? Was he steady or was he hiding? Because there's a line between composure and concealment, and Daniel Martell has walked that line in silence since day one. It started with whispers, then hashtags, then full-blown accusations. Daniel knows something. Daniel did something. Daniel's silence isn't grief, it's guilt. These weren't just internet rumors. They were patterns, compiled, compared, repeated, until even the most rational minds began to wonder, what if the stepfather wasn't as innocent as he appeared? Some pointed to the inconsistencies. Daniel said he was asleep, but the neighbor's dog barked at 4 a.m. The boots by the door were dry, though it rained before dawn. Some pointed to control. They said Daniel isolated Malia, that she deferred to him, even when speaking about her own children, that when she cried, he squeezed her hand, not to comfort, but to guide, to silence. Others went deeper, into the realm of emotional manipulation, emotional grooming. A man who didn't need to raise his voice to dominate, just a quiet correction here, a veiled threat there, until the woman beside him stopped being herself and became his reflection. And then, there was motive. Was Daniel afraid the truth would surface? Had he lost control of the children? Was there financial strain, legal pressure, a custody battle we don't know about? Or was it darker than that? Some say he snapped, others say he planned, and a few still insist he's just a man who found himself in a nightmare, not of his making. But even the most charitable theories hit the same wall. Why hasn't he explained the missing hours? Why does every answer raise another question? And why does his face remain blank when every other parent is breaking? Daniel Martell hasn't been charged. He hasn't been arrested, and legally he remains a citizen like any other. But in the court of public opinion, the verdict is stuck somewhere between suspicion and something far more damning. He hasn't been charged, not by the RCMP, not by any court, not officially, but outside the walls of justice, in the echo chamber of grief and outrage. Daniel Martell is on trial every day. In the beginning, he was just the stepfather, then the quiet one, then the one who didn't speak up, and now he's become a symbol, a blank space in a story screaming to be filled. So we ask again, was Daniel Martell a silent protector, a man who loved children not his own, and lost them in the worst way imaginable? Or was he a man who wore the perfect role to hide something darker beneath? His calmness, his timelines, the unanswered hours, the contradiction between what he says and what never quite adds up. Public sympathy has faded, compassion replaced with caution. Every interview he didn't give, every search he didn't lead, every tear he didn't shed on camera, all of it now part of the case against him, in the public mind. But here's the truth. Daniel Martell has rights. He has pain too, and none of this proves guilt. But silence does something. It invites speculation. It builds walls between answers and accountability. And in cases like this, where the trail is cold and time is cruel, silence doesn't protect anyone. It just echoes louder until it becomes the only thing people hear. Maybe he's innocent. Maybe he's broken. Or maybe, just maybe, he's hiding behind the role of a grieving stepfather. and hoping no one looks too closely. One truth remains. Jack and Lily Sullivan are still missing, and if Daniel Martell holds even one missing piece of that puzzle, the world is done waiting for him to speak. This is Daniel Martell, and we still don't know who he really is.